In this video, what I'm going to be doing is going over all of the latest Cyberpunk news, so you don't have to track down each of the individual articles or stories, and you could just watch this video and kind of get a recap of the past week or so. And actually something pretty important, if you did see some of those headlines or some of those articles, there's been some misinformation going around about the game, and I do want to clear it up in this video. It'll actually be the first thing I talk about in this video. We recently got quite a bit of info and news around the game, the source of this being several Polish news outlets that recently got to see the game. This past week, a couple of press outlets got to see the same gameplay demo that was shown behind closed doors to media at E3, but with one big advantage, some of these same people were at E3, and thus this is the second time they're seeing the gameplay demo, something not many people have actually been able to do thus far. And naturally, getting to watch the same gameplay twice, you're able to actually pick up on a lot of the finer details, especially considering you have a, just in general, better idea of how everything is working together, because you already heard the explanation. So as a byproduct of that, we've been getting a lot of additional details that were kind of missed on the first go with that new gameplay that will be released to the public either late August or early September. But naturally, since this was from Polish media, much of these details are being shared in Polish, and one of these details actually kind of got lost in translation, or there was just some misreporting around it and getting a lot of attention as a result. As you may have heard recently, that Cyberpunk 2077 will feature real religions even if they're going to offend other people. And a lot of that reporting involves somebody from CD Projekt saying, we don't really care if we offend other people, we just want to be true to form, or something along those lines. This apparent comment from CD Projekt actually got a lot of attention from all kinds of different news outlets, social media, and even a lot of support from fans. Many people praising CD Projekt Red for just kind of doing what they felt was right and not worrying about offending a ton of other people. So before I go on a little tirade about why this shouldn't happen in the first place, let's first look at what was actually said, and even further, what CD Projekt's additional comments on this subject were. One of the Polish outlets that saw this gameplay had an interview opportunity, and in that, the question of religion actually pops up. This original article was in Polish, but just even using basic Google Translate on the original article, you mentioned religion. Seriously? There are still beliefs in the world of Cyberpunk? As I mentioned, our vision is a variation on our real world, and with us, religion plays a very important role when it comes to society. In the game, we'll see Christianity and its various factions and religions of the East. And then a follow-up question, it sounds like a gate to controversy. Someone will come to the church and arrange a massacre. We do not want to avoid the topic of religion. For us, the authenticity of the world counts. Technically, the situation you are talking about is possible, but it is the player's choice. We'll not encourage it in any way. However, the missions prepared by us that touch on religious topics will of course ensure that they do not come out disrespectfully. IGN, when covering this whole story, actually reached out to CD Projekt themselves, asking if the posted online translation was accurate. CD Projekt was like, no, it's not, and they actually provided their own translation to English. CD Projekt's version reads, you mentioned religion. Does it still exist in the cyberpunk world? Yes, and in many forms. As I mentioned, our vision is somehow based on the real world, and religion is a very important part of the latter, society-wise. In our game, we're going to see, for example, Christianity and its different branches, or religions from the East. Sounds controversial. Someone will enter a church to cause havoc. We not want to avoid religion as a topic. Authenticity of the world is what counts for us. Technically, the situation you mentioned is possible, but this is all about the choices made by the player. We won't encourage the player to do so. In our quests, which involve religious themes, we make sure there's no disrespect. So now you might be sitting here scratching your head like, how did this get misconstrued? Me, just going to the original article, using Google Translate as it's built into Chrome, got a much more accurate representation of what was said than what several of these articles and posts were reporting on. So what happened? Unfortunately, what happened is something we see way too often in journalism, especially while I'm making these videos, because at its heart, I'm just re-reporting on news. I'm repackaging it in hopefully a much nicer and more consumable way. But also, I do go to the original source. So if we go back to a lot of these Reddit threads, which seem to be the major point of where this got promoted, you read the headline, you see, Cyberpunk 2077 will feature real religions, even if it will offend, ... So if you click on that, it'll take you to a Game Watcher article or another article re-reporting on this. The Game Watcher one in particular was the popular one. In the Game Watcher article, you see what looks like several different quotes from CD Projekt, one of which is, we will not avoid any subject, even if they may offend the sensitivity of some. You might be like, where did they get that? Then if you actually go to the source of the Game Watcher article, this will take you to NeoGAF, which is a forum. On there, they have a bunch of translations of some of the major details, and even on this post, they say, found on the official forum, someone translates the comments of the Polish press after a new demo. It seems like this might have been from a collection of responses on one of the big mega threads on Cyberpunk's official official forums on CD Projekt Red's website, but even at the bottom of the NeoGAF article, sources are provided, one of which links back to the original article that I talked about earlier in this video. And you see how this all happens. It's re-reporting on re-reported information that gets promoted on social media. And you would think, oh, maybe this is just a one-off case. No, this happens all of the time, and I see it while making these videos all of the time. Naturally, since I don't have complete and direct access to CD Projekt Red, a lot of the times these videos consist of me re-reporting on others' interviews or gameplays, whatever it might be. The difference is, when I actually do that, I take the extra step to go to the original source. I can't tell you how many times I've had a PC Gamer article linked to me around Cyberpunk. I realize, oh, this isn't actually their own content, they're re-reporting on somebody else, so I click on their source. It takes me to IGN, who's actually re-reporting on an original interview conducted by GameSpot. It's insane, and to avoid stuff like this, I think just simply going to where the information starts is probably the best route. Either way, fortunately that was cleared up, and fortunately also from these interviews we get a lot of other interesting information around Cyberpunk 2077. Naturally, one of the first things is more comments on the religion in the game. During the gameplay demo, on your way to actually meet with a certain character, you see some of this. Our time here is very brief, and we're really just more of walking through this area than anything else, but it certainly seems like some of the various factions in the game will be more closely related with certain religions as it's part of their culture, kind of similar to how it works in real life, which I think is what's echoed in some of those comments by CD Projekt from that interview. They seem to be really putting an emphasis on authenticity in this game, and obviously I support that. One big question I would have around some of those components is though, is there going to be a good and a bad side? But moving on and looking at some of the less controversial topics, and just an FYI, I myself actually read through all the interviews, so I'm not basing this off of some random person's translation. Cyberpunk 2077 is going to feature custom radio stations. This will feature their own custom-made music. We've actually seen some of this start getting posted online, and seemingly more is to come based off this response. But it was also described from one of these interviews that several of these radio stations will actually have their own announcers. Not all of them, but some of them will have unique characters that act as an announcer on that station, which is kind of cool. It seems like in this game there might be a genuine thing where some players like specific stations, and you tune into that maybe because you find the announcer funny, but also you like the genre of music being presented. It's also described just as you're walking around in Night City, several tasks will be given to you via your phone, whether that be an SMS or actually a phone call, and more or less some of the middlemen, then being referred to as fixers. So somebody with a problem contacts them, they contact you as the mercenary, will reach out to you this way, and this is how you'll get some of your activities. From one of the interviewers that did see this gameplay back at E3 and now is watching it over a second time, we actually get some other interesting details around the game. There's no confirmation on a max level in Cyberpunk, but what he saw was, as you actually go through this gameplay demo, it's described how you're actually at the mid-game and being level 18 to 19, but also, as far as other NPCs you see, the highest enemy NPC level is actually level 45. Again, none of this is concrete or confirmed by CD Projekt, but another thing he picked up on, we've known for a while now that while in some of the vehicles you could actually switch from third person to first person, even though you can't do that during normal gameplay, but also while on the motorcycle in this, apparently you could actually talk to other NPCs. Like not on the phone or not texting, seemingly that'll also be an option, but just kind of standing on your bike and talking to someone next to you. It's kind of a small detail, but I thought that was really cool. As far as just some general news around the game goes, I know a lot of you guys are probably curious about the ARG. I've been posting kind of regular updates on that. There actually is nothing. Yeah, nothing else has been found around this Reddit account, which was kind of the last clue. I did suggest that maybe we're waiting for something to be posted, like this is a hard stop and we can't actually progress further, and one user actually reached out to CD Projekt and did get that explicitly confirmed. So as it stands right now, it doesn't seem like we could actually progress with the ARG. One clue that may allude to this is, it seems like one of the community managers, the one that actually participated and tweeted out the password for the ARG in the past, is on vacation right now. Also from CD Projekt, we hear that there's actually not going to be any exclusive or unique pre-order bonuses with this game. If you buy the game, you're getting the same in-game content. You could get other out-of-game content, such as if you get the collector's edition or if you actually buy it from GOG's official website, you'll get some stuff there, but in-game content will remain the same for everyone. But yeah, a little bit of a shorter video. The big reason I wanted to make it was that misinformation. Whenever stories like that get passed around, it's always the original gets a ton of attention and the follow-up typically doesn't get nearly as much, or people won't see the follow-up. Plus with this one, even just the larger commentary and issue I've been seeing with cyberpunk journalism journalism, if you want to call it that, of basically media and even just people on certain websites playing the telephone game when it comes to interviews or raw information from this, getting very far removed from the original source, which is probably not the best thing to do, especially when you could so easily find the original source. Either way, as always, I'll have links to everything I talk about down below if you want to read some of this stuff for yourself. But as always, again, I thank you for watching, and with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.